Hello and welcome back to Genshin Impact. Today we're going to be doing the event quest When the Curtains Close. Go back to the academia and take a look around. Kvaal mentioned that he would be going to the academia for some alone time. Perhaps you should go talk to him. So let's go. I'm worried this isn't going to be voiced.
Where were you while the rest of us were eating together?
Dude, it is.
I don't recall being obligated to report my whereabouts to you.
Did you go find another hidey hole to read in? You need to change your ways, you know. You can't survive on books alone.
Surviving on meals paid for by you would be harder still.
You... Whatever. It doesn't take a genius to guess what you've been up to. You were investigating Sachin, weren't you? It was obvious from your notes. However, I don't believe his research alone would have been enough to pique your interest. His way of doing things is disturbing, while you... Well, to be fair, your philosophy disgusts me too, but you and Sachin are nothing alike. I don't imagine your views intersect at all. Egoism and nihilism are not the same thing.
My personal interests aside, Sachin's legacy is not entirely meaningless. He conducted experiments on a great scale and left his findings behind. Also, thanks for the compliment, but I'm actually just passing through. I didn't come here for the conversation. Well, not this one at least.
What do you mean? What topic of conversation could be more sacred among scholars than the exploration of differing philosophies?
Well, based on what I've learned, Sachin and his disturbing way of doing things, as you put it, is very likely to have met your father 20 years ago.
What did you say? Wait, so... No. Surely that doesn't mean... Huh. So that's why he thought I looked familiar. My father must have gone into the desert due to his influence.
I'm afraid so.
Good thing I shattered that diadem. From now on, nothing like that will ever have to happen again.
The boundaries of knowledge are ever expanding. Someone else will inevitably pick up the same line of research one day, and Vahumana regards it as a reasonable research direction.
Oh, not this again. Even if you're right and people are bound to fall into the same intellectual traps, things won't necessarily go the same way again next time. You have to admit that the actions of one individual don't always predict the behavior of the group, and vice versa. Take Sachin, for instance. He's quite an anomaly.
And so is the one who stopped him. You. Conflicts of this nature are indeed exceptional, but it will occur again in the future. You said it yourself. The actions of one individual cannot predict the behavior of a whole group. You know that not everyone would have chosen as you did.
Even so, I stand by my views. You can forget about trying to convince me.
That's fine. We've been arguing over this for years, and I don't hold any hope of you understanding. The issue we're debating has long since moved on from who's right and who's wrong.
Thanks for letting me know all this.
What?
I said, thanks for letting me know. Hey, stop acting like you didn't hear me. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?
They say that earnest thanks should be given thrice, so one more time, please.
So that's all that quest was, really? His father. I don't recall anything about Kvaal's father. And it don't look like we have any hangouts or story quests with him. Well, I guess we'll do that incident from 20 years ago now. Ask Dory for information. Dory says that she had the latest update on the Academia Extravaganza. Why not go and hear it? So, let's go talk to Dory. Okay. Now it's not voiced, damn it. Have you decided to buy information from me? Paimon's a little curious about your exclusive information, but we need to hear the price first. If it's too expensive, then forget it. I'll sell it to you for the fixed price of 1 million Mora. That's a lot, never mind. 1 million more can buy lots and lots of tasty food. Wait a sec, let me see. Paimon is customer number 1001 for day. The original cost of the information was 1 million mora, but for you the price is now free. Paimon didn't know such a luck exists. Wait, you're not baiting us into spending, are you? Maybe the first sentence is free, but not the next sentence. If you don't want it, fine. Next? Wait. Forget what Paimon said. We'll listen. Dory's exclusive scoop number 1. Do you remember the Diadem of Knowledge? Paimon remembers that only the champion was entitled to wear the diadem. It seemed very valuable. Exactly. The diadem that Sachin gave the Academia was a rather expensive antique. Yet this very diadem, after it was donated to the Academia, was lost by them once before. Why didn't we hear about this? If everyone knew about this, would my information still be considered exclusive? Of course, this information doesn't come from nowhere. I've got witnesses too. There's a young fellow named Kashmir from the suburbs. If you're interested in delving further, you can ask him. The password is that incident from 20 years ago. Okay, so maybe we'll get information about his father here. Since he said 20 years ago. Who are you guys? Is there something you need? That incident from 20 years ago. I guess I shouldn't have told anyone. Last time I had too much to drink and blabbed a little too much, and now people are seeking me out. Since you're curious, I guess I'll tell you. I was just 6 years old 20 years ago, so I can't remember clearly what happened at the time. But recently I read the diary I kept when I was a child, and vaguely recall the situation back then. The Interdarshan Championship was also held that year. There were 3 rounds, the last of which was outside the city. I begged my mom to take me out of town to see it, and when she refused, I snuck out. And then I ended up getting lost outside the city in the middle of nowhere. There was no one around. I grew more and more frightened and began to cry. That's when I saw some strange creatures. I can't remember what they looked like. I only remember how as a child I stopped crying at the sight of them. Strange creatures, they must be the Aranara. They took me to the competition. Unfortunately, by the time we got there, it was too late. It was already over. Just when I was disheartened, I suddenly saw one of those strange creatures slowly dragging a crown along. It was a beautiful crown, shining in the moonlight, and I could not help but follow it. I saw the little fellow hide the crown in a hollow tree before disappearing. I wanted to touch that crown, but at the moment I could hear the distant cries of my mother. It turns out she figured out I was lost and got her neighbors to go looking for me. Never got to touch it. It wasn't until I was older when I saw the Diadem of Knowledge at the Interdarshan Championship that I realized it was the same thing. Alright, do you remember where that diadem ended up? It's probably in the Avidya Forest, but I've been back a few times and I haven't found anything. No one would believe me, even if I told them. Alas, even I can't remember it clearly. Perhaps it was a dream I had when I was a child. Well, should we go look for it, Daruma? Oh yeah. Let's go look for it. Wait, this is a video for it? Oh, okay. Okay, if it's in this tree and he couldn't find it, there's something seriously wrong with him. This big ass thing. Is there an entrance or do I gotta climb it? Looks like I gotta climb here. There's a hole in the tree. Seems completely empty, and there's nothing in it. Wait, there's a note there. The good Nara taught Arvikashpa how to read. Arakaspia must protect the good Nara. What's this supposed to mean? Faint traces of writing can be seen on the weather note. The good Nara taught blah blah blah. Okay. Wait, there's a higher up here? I want to check that out. Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, I guess we're going back to Dory. Well, well, if it isn't Daruma and Paimon, yet again. I have the latest update on the Academia Extravaganza. Would you like to hear it? How much? It's free. Isn't Lord Sangama Bay generous? Do you guys remember Sachin? The guy who sponsored the Academia Extravaganza? Paimon heard that the prize money and Diadem of Knowledge came from him. Bingo! In fact, not long ago when I was doing business in the desert, I met an old businessman. Guess what I got from him? A dealer's ledger. With it, I can avoid dangerous areas in the desert and go to more places. Of course, the most important thing is that the ledger mentions Sachin. Turned out that Sachin had been to the desert to investigate the people's local conditions and customs. He also had cordial exchanges with the traveling merchants in the desert. Much of the text is lost, but this is a first-hand account of the big sponsor behind the Academia Extravaganza. Would you like to take a look? Okay, let's have a look then. Old papers. The sandstorms are raging. The caravan has stalled. We ran into a scholar calling himself Sachin. He said he could sponsor the caravan provided that we... This is a trial of human nature. Betrayal. Plunder. There was nothing we could do. No one could withstand. If I could do it all over again, I would never have taken that money. Then they wouldn't have had to die, and I wouldn't be living like this. A fate worse than death. People are the most terrifying animals in this world. What the hell happened? This is all hard to understand, Dory. What does this all mean? What does this all mean? I'm afraid that if you need it analyzed, it'll cost you extra million more. Forget it then. Well, since you're not paying, that'll be all for Dory's special news. But let me give you a hint. There should be someone here who's been to a lot of Academia Extravaganzas. Perhaps you could talk to them? Down it. Really wish this was voiced. Ah, the old man here. Okay. Alas, seeing these young children, I can't help but reminisce about the past. The Interdarshan Championship has always been a stage for young talent. Fortunately, not every genius will be successful eventually. Why do you say that? Geniuses are mostly stubborn and cold and find it hard to understand the pain of others. Empathetic people, on the other hand, often fall into self-doubt and depression. People who are not firm can only stand still, while people who are determined but walk down the wrong path refuse to look back. There are a lot to think about here. Okay. Maybe that wasn't as informative as I expected it to be. For this year's Interdarshan Championship, my favorite has to be Sino. Aside from his skills as a General Mahamatra, looking back at the tournament's history, the Spatama Darshan has the highest percentage of champions. Many people say that the Spatama Darshan produces many talented people such as Cyrus, Rozika, Lisa, Sino. The brighter the talent, the sooner the game will lose its suspense. The most exciting competition was still 20 years ago. At that time, my friend also participated in the game, and I went there to cheer for him. The last round was played in the Vidia Forest. In the end, no one dared to approach them, and no one knew what was going on in the depths of the forest. Then I heard that Academia shut down the competition. Later, the Introduction Championship removed many of the events in which people fought to the death, discouraging people from being so desperate enough to do so. Wow, what is your friend like? Let me think, he's honest and kind, but he's also vulnerable and sensitive. Most of all, he cares about us. When we drink together, our time is filled with laughter and cheer. Just too bad that it's all in the past now. Among the friends we drank with, some died, some disappeared, some now live in seclusion. They say fate is fickle. Perhaps it's true. Looks like something did happen 20 years ago, right? Did Wikwas tell us to seek him out if we had any questions? Now that we have time, why don't we ask him? Okay. That incident from 20 years ago? Why the sudden question? Did you hear any particular information? We've heard that the diadem seems to have been lost 20 years ago, and some contestant's personality has changed. You seem to know a lot about that. Wikwas, is there something you're not telling us? Not exactly. I was 5 years old when it happened. How could I know? But there are things I've never told anyone. I'm actually a part of the Academia Extravaganza's planning committee because of the influence of the senior colleague. That senior colleague and I met on a trip. He was a bit timid and would always flee and cower somewhere at the first sign of an emergency. One day, 4 years ago, I said to him, I want to go back to the Academia. The Academia Extravaganza is about to begin. And then, upon mentioning the Academia Extravaganza, he got startled and said something about it has nothing to do with me. When I said goodbye to him, he insisted on getting a drink with me. After several drinks, he started talking all sorts of nonsense. I also had too many, and in my drunken stupor, I didn't really hear him that well. I only remember that he said he lost the Diadem of Knowledge for a while. He was in charge of the distribution and recovery of the Diadem of Knowledge, and that he nearly had a heart attack upon realizing that the diadem was missing. Fortunately, he found it in a tree hole, like the one we saw before. He said that the Diadem of Knowledge is a very valuable treasure, which is recorded in many ancient books. Legend has it that it was built by a famous craftsman in ancient times and carries a secret that no one knows. Sachin had entrusted the Academia to safeguard the diadem after all. If my senior was responsible for the diadem's disappearance, he could not afford to pay for it with his meager wealth. Even if the loss was temporary, no one should know of it, lest the Academia find him guilty of gross negligence. So he covered it up? Yes, seems that he also said that many people came to inquire about it, including children, but he said that the diadem has never been lost. But he was so scared that when things blew over, he quit his job and left the Academia. I drank too much that night, and when I woke up the next day, he was gone. The more I thought about it, the more I had a bad feeling that issues would crop up in the Academia Extravaganza if entrusted to someone like him. I didn't have a job at the time, so I joined the Academia Extravaganza Planning Committee. I tried to investigate things on the inside too, but I couldn't find anything. And the diadem was found, and the man whose personality was said to have changed was dead, and there was nothing to be found. Still, 20 years is still a long time, long enough that the people involved from the beginning no longer remember nor care. That's all I know. If you're curious, keep investigating and maybe one day you'll discover the truth. That's easy for you to say. We don't have much to go on. Do you have any more information, like where the senior colleague went? I haven't heard from him. Later I also went to the desert to look for him, but in the vast desert, it was almost impossible to run into him. To make up for it, I do have some information on Sachin. Would you like to hear it? Sure. Tell us. When I was traveling, I did so with an Eremite commander. While we were chatting, he said he came into possession of an article written by an academia researcher. He seemed to think it was something precious and refused to show it to anyone, only to let me peek at it at my request. I only caught a glimpse of it, but I saw that it was signed by Sachin. I didn't know who Sachin was, nor did I care. After joining the Academia Extravaganza Planning Committee, I found out that he was an important member of the Bahumana Darshan who sponsored the event. If you're interested, you can find the Eremite commander in the desert. He's usually in the Valley of Dari. Information related to Sachin. Alright, let's go take a look. Alright. Oh, he's just right next to the teleporter. He looks kinda young to have known Sachin. What do you want? Oh, this guy looks real fierce. Either say your piece or leave. I have no time for you. Actually, we heard that you have Sachin's article on you, so we were wondering if we could have a look. Are you kidding me? No? Why would you ask that? Seems like you guys really don't know. Some time ago I had the article appraised. Turns out it's nothing more than a personal travel journal, and is of little value. He hired my father to keep him safe. That Sachin fellow would often walk, ask, write, and mumble. There was one time his papers were blown away by the wind. He said it was no big deal. My father, however, saw that things written by intellectuals must be valuable, so he had looked around for them at night with a torch. None among my family could read. My father cherished this article and then passed it on to me. I had no idea it was completely worthless. Sounds unfortunate, but do you still have it? Yes, you want to have a look? You can look at it as much as you want. Since it's not worth anything, there's no need for me to be so stingy. Unclear notes. Once the gods reigned supreme, all life flocked to them like sheep seeking shepherds, and those who suffered did so in silence. Now divine power has dwindled while human wisdom has blossomed. However, those who suffer face suffering still. There's a saying in Leeway that goes, life is like lodging at an end, and in Inazuma, all things are but void. It hurts every time I read these words. I try to seek the reason for this. The wheel of time turns, and the only constant throughout Sumeru's history is human nature. Since arriving in the desert, I have conducted a total of 64 experiments over the course of 7 years. Men are like prisoners or captured animals, feeding on each other's happiness until one is doomed to eternal torment. Therefore, where there is gain, there must be loss. Where there is happiness, there is agony. Everyone is a victim, but everyone is also a perpetrator. Greed and numbness reside in the heart of humanity. Driven by greed, humans choose to commit evil, and numbness is why they turn a blind eye to the evil of others. If this is what the world is, what is then the meaning of the world? The future is to the present as the present is to the past. Peace was never an option. Conflict is the eternal truth. Everything, from my knowledge, my wisdom, to my life, is but nothingness. So this is the article that Sachin wrote, eh? To be honest, Paimon can't make sense of any of it. But judging from the crummy handwriting, Paimon can't say exactly why. But Paimon had the feeling he was going through a tough time. Obviously. Well, we're done reading it. Thank you very much. You're welcome. It's not worth any money, but I'm going to keep it anyway. After all, my father entrusted it to me. Come see me again if you want to look at it again. Wow. More information from Dory, huh? I mean, Sachin's not wrong at all. The world is getting more and more fucked every year. It's time yet again for an information cell from Lord Sagama Bay. Would you like to purchase the latest reports? Let me see. This information isn't that important, so go for only $500 million Mora. It's half the usual price. What a bargain. Mind giving it to me for free? Whoa, you want to bring it down to 0, Mora? Just as I expected. But I am the great Lord Sagama Bay. Well, since you're so interested, I'll tell you for free, but you must keep it to yourselves. I hear that 20 years ago there was a contestant whose personality suddenly changed after taking part in the competition. Well, it looks like someone saw him in Aru Village. I wonder where he ended up. That's all the information you're getting for free. So you want to hear more? You gotta pay 2 million Mora. I appreciate your patronage. What a ripoff. We could just go to Aru Village ourselves and ask around. And that's what we'll do. Years ago, a young man did appear here. Back then, life was much harder than it is now. Poverty, disease, ignorance, they tormented us constantly. That young man, clearly from the academia with a bright future, was nevertheless willing to come here and help us. He taught us how to deal with Winnet and monsters. He bought us a lot of medicine with money from his own pocket and took care of the ill all by himself. Sounds like a great guy. Yeah, too bad the good die young. He was always frowning, and no one knew that what he was worried about. Everyone was wondering if he was going to leave us. This place did not have the means to properly host him. Still, many said he was a bit crazy to begin with. For example, he would sometimes tell children a story about how, as a child, he taught a strange creature to write. Later, he would often leave the village and explore the desert. Once I asked him what he was looking for, and he said he wanted to talk to someone from the Nagara something group. Later on, I heard that he died in the quicksand. It is said that he encountered a caravan trapped in quicksand on its way to investigate something. He saved many people, but he himself was unable to get out in time. At that time, there was still a half-finished letter addressed to his children at home. After he died, my son took that letter with him, thinking about delivering it someday. Is that unfinished letter still here? No, it's not here. To live a better life, my son became a mercenary. He was killed in a scuffle a few years ago, and his belongings were taken. Many years have passed in the blink of an eye. I wonder how his children turned out, and if they hold a grudge against him. Not many people know these things anymore. I'm getting old. Perhaps I'll forget these things soon, too. That's where it's gonna stop? No. That's really where they're gonna stop this? You're kidding me. So we couldn't find the... Okay. I'm sure the guy that we've been tracking and talking about was Kava's father. And he's the one that died in the quicksand and everything. He's the one that helped the Aura learn to write, which is what was in that tree. Oh man. Okay, I have to look up and see if there's more hidden somewhere. A paradise, a parade of province. Okay. Okay, and that was... Which one was that? Was it the contestant? Looks like it. Okay, I don't see anything on Game 8 about it. Okay, it says Dory had some extra dialogue. So I guess we'll go back to Dory and see what she has to say. Or was she over here? Wait, I thought she... Oh, okay.
Well, how did it go? I assume that Lord Sangama Bey's assistants helped you discover something, yes? You mean... Sachin was not a good person, and there's definitely something wrong with that diadem of knowledge.
Indeed.
And in that case, shouldn't you be doing something about it? For instance, telling the Academia that they should give up the diadem? We already told the Academia, but... But what? Kaveh smashed the diadem. What? Calm down, Dory. Why are you getting so worked up? My diadem. My beautiful diadem. This was supposed to be the perfect plan. I feed you the information, you discover the issue with the diadem, and then I just wait until the Academia sells it off at a low price. And now, it was all for nothing. Curse that Kaveh. The interest rate on the mora he owes me is about to get much higher. Oh, so that's why you told us about this. Yeah, Paimon did think you were being unusually generous. My diadem. I'm furious. That's it. No extension on his payment this month, no matter what reason he gives.
Okay. Maybe we should come back later. Okay, let's teleport somewhere else and come back, I guess. Okay, she's gone. So that's it for Dory. Let me see if there's anyone else here.
Looking at the scores alone gives you one side of the story.
Okay. We'll see if the guy in here has anything to say, if he's even here. He is not. Okay. So unfortunately, we don't know anything about the letter. I really wish we did. But from what we could gather is the mysterious person was Kava's dad, who took part in the competition 20 years ago. He taught an Aranara to write, and probably why the Aranara took the diadem.
Notes are made for transferring commodities
Because
back and forth.
if he put on the
And those that
diadem,
come across-
he might have had the same issue that Kava had. And he went to the desert to help people, and I don't know what he was doing in the desert. But he died helping a caravan and was never able to send a letter to Kava. And don't know anything about the letter. Hopefully we get that information in the future. But if you've watched this, thanks for watching. And I hope you all have wonderful lives. Peace.